one of the things we're talking about is because of the development of medicines over the course of time, the medicines we developed 100 years ago have a lot more side effects than the medicines that we're developing now. One of the
Absolutely.
issues we have, at least with pain, is using opioids, right? And so we know that opioids are effective, and generally they're going to drop a bomb on your brain, tell your brain you're not having pain, but they also tell your brain not to breathe, right? They also give you a euphoria, a feeling of, pleasure, which I'm not saying don't have pleasure, but I'm just saying that's what leads to addiction.
Right.
And so it's a real crisis right now with opioids and opioid addiction. And I think that some of the things that you're doing is alternatives to just giving opioid.
So I'm not pro opioid and I'm not negative opioid. Right. I'm pro patient. So, good example. I have this 80-year-old lady. She's got multiple arthritises, multiple, just pain. I put her on a low dose of time release Morphine twice a day. Doesn't goof her up, doesn't make her sedated, allows her to function. I can inject her from here to forever at every little spot, which may or may not be beneficial. But in a case like that, that's reasonable. So what happened is, if we look at the pyramid of docs, we've got docs who understand what's going on and do the right thing. It's the majority of it. Then you've got a smaller amount who are motivated to do the right thing, just don't know what they're doing. And that's where the overprescriptions typically occur. When you've got that small subset who's going to meet you at Starbucks and give you a script for $300, and they usually wind up in jail, which is great. When we look at opioids in the 60s, 70s, they were reserved for, bad things, big surgery or something, anesthesia, whatever, something like that. And we just didn't really prescribe them that much. And then the Sackler family, who came up with MS-Contin and then subsequently OxyContin, realized that they could sell this painkiller that they said was not addicting, that was not problematic, and if you need more, you can have more. They paid physicians to publish articles that were not real, that were inappropriate. They had a sales force that was second to none, that went to every doctor who wrote any kind of opioid and promoted. And they would do a lot of things that are illegal today, buying this or that, or, not a car or something, but maybe a trip or a weekend away and so forth like that. And they kept pounding the notion that these are not a problem. They need more, use more. It's the fifth vital sign. You're paying.
That's the Keaton movie, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah, amongst others.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sacklers were unbelievably bad people. And so they created this market force. Well, as times went by, we're like, this was wrong. And it took time for everyone to catch up and go, this is baloney. And so then it became draconian. The state, California, was saying, you can't prescribe more than this. Well, I've got a patient who's, metabolizes differently than other people. And they have a serious thing, and it's the only thing that helps. So you've always felt like you're like living in the red zone, and the brown shirt's going to come and get you anytime. So it's been changed. Guys like Sean Matthews, head of pain at Stanford, great guy, really smart guy, was on the medical board to like help now say, hey, if it's appropriate, which is better. But again, in the right usage, they're great. What's interesting, a new drug just came out, and what it works on is it works on a certain sodium channel. There are people, everything you think is a TV show right now, where there's some guy who can't feel pain. He steps on a nail. It's a genetic mutant of a gene that expresses the NAV17G, whatever that means. I know what it means, but, for listeners.
Yeah.
So this particular sodium channel is what propels the nerve fibers to send pain.
Yes.
Okay? So they found an oral version. They developed an oral version which inhibits this. It's not an opioid, doesn't cause respiratory depletion. There's no euphoria. There's nothing wrong with it. And so,
It inhibits the sodium channel, so you don't get the action potential on that particular nerve fiber.
correct. Journovix is the name.
Yeah.
That's the trade name. Interestingly, for this big pain meeting organization in American Society of Pain and Neuroscience, I was a head of translational research. So I would bring in different people. There's a group out of San Diego. What they're doing is they're taking CRISPR technology and they're injecting it into like the nerve root. So say someone's got chronic sciatic pain. So there's a little part of our nerve right as it exits the spine called the dorsal root ganglion. They're injecting the CRISPR technology, which is going to affect the genetics, to create that deficit in the NAV17 gene. Interesting. So this target's been around for a long time. It's just like CGRP has been for headaches has been known for a long time, but just only in a few years have developed molecules that aren't toxic. So the approach with opioids is they're a useful tool used right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the short answer. Most of the opioid deaths today that you see, overdoses or fentanyl, 90% of them, at least 90% of them. So the opioid crisis is a different opioid crisis than we had 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we had this escalation of OxyContin and other drugs that caused people to become addicted. And when they put a kibosh on that, what they turn to? Heroin. But then what happened to heroin? Well, now it's laced with fentanyl. Not too good. You may get the wrong dose. And xylazine. So, I mean, there's so many. They created a monster, which we now have a secondary monster from.
One of the things that you guys can do is nowadays, now that we understand a lot of these molecules and products, there is an antagonist for opioids called naloxone or Narcan that you can actually get delivered through your nose, right? It's just an intranasal injection that you can use now. Now you can get that over the counter at certain places. You can also get it for free at certain places. So listen, if you have a friend or you suspect that somebody is overdosing on opioids, they're sleeping,
Abusing opioids.
abusing
The
opioids.
potential for overdose.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very common. We just routinely give naloxone to our patients. We prescribe it to them and make sure it's up to date and so forth. Anyone who gets any opioid. Because it's not so much that, I get a 75-year-old lady who needs 3 Norco a day just to get by and it's fine and it works and she doesn't need it. That's fine. No side effects. Well, she's got that thing in her cabinet.
Yeah.
But if her grandson comes over and decides, oh, cool, and he overdoses, you've got the Narcan. So that's one scenario, not only for the person who's prescribed the medications, but for the secondary effects that may occur.
Yeah. So look for it. And if you're taking an opioid and you have particularly kidney disease or renal disease and your creatinine's going up, like you're not going to clear it as fast. So you might need the Narcan anyway to kind of counteract some of the consequences of overdosing. So these are just tools. These are just, advices that we're giving secondary to people that prescribe opioids for a population of patients.
It's a good point. It's a good point because it's readily available. It's free or not very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's a safety kit.